If you're listening to this right now, pause for a moment. Because this message didn't find you by accident. You didn't click this video out of curiosity. You were drawn here. There are seasons when God gently leads. And then there are moments when He interrupts your scrolling, your thinking, your doubting. Just to remind you, you are still chosen. Even after the failure. Even after the silence. Even after people decided your story was over. Tonight we are talking about the shock that is coming. Not for you, but for the ones who counted you out. The ones who whispered. The ones who watched you fall and assumed God was finished. The ones who quietly moved on without you. They are about to witness something they never prepared for. People thought your absence meant defeat. They mistook your quiet for weakness. Your isolation for irrelevance. Your waiting for failure. But they misunderstood the season you were in. You weren't falling behind. You were being pulled back, like an arrow. God does not launch people randomly. He pulls them back intentionally. The tension you felt wasn't rejection. It was preparation. And while they assumed you were done, heaven was aligning your next chapter. Let's be honest. People felt safe dismissing you. Because your struggle lasted longer than expected. Because the breakthrough didn't come on schedule. Because your prayers weren't answered publicly. Time made them careless. They forgot who God was because they focused on what you were going through. But Scripture has always warned us. Never judge a life while God is still writing. They saw the process, but they didn't see the promise. Here's the truth that will settle your heart. God never signed off on their opinion. He never called you finished. He never labeled you disqualified. He never withdrew His hand. People count seasons. God counts purpose. And purpose does not expire because of delay, failure, or misunderstanding. What they called the end, God called intermission. You asked God why He didn't defend you. Why He didn't explain. Why He didn't expose lies. Why He didn't clear your name immediately. Because if God defended you too early, people would credit explanation instead of resurrection. God stayed silent so the comeback could speak. There are testimonies that only make sense after everything goes quiet. That season where things fell apart? It wasn't punishment. It was separation. God was removing false confidence, wrong attachments, applause-based identity, approval addiction. Because what He's about to place on your life cannot be carried by someone still dependent on validation. You didn't lose everything. You lost what couldn't go with you. Notice this. Others failed and recovered quietly. But when you struggled, the resistance intensified. The criticism became sharper. The distance became colder. The opposition became relentless. Why? Because hell attacks threats, not spectators. The assignment on your life was visible in the spirit long before it was visible in the natural. The pressure you survived already disqualified the enemy. From the outside, it looked like nothing was happening. Your name stopped coming up in conversations. Your presence faded from rooms you once filled. Opportunities slowed. Momentum disappeared. People watched and concluded. They assumed God had moved on. But heaven never left. People judge progress by visibility. God measures it by depth. While they measured your life by outcomes, God was measuring your heart by obedience. You weren't stuck. You were being reshaped. The silence wasn't inactivity. It was precision. God does not rush formation, because what He forms must last. Before, you trusted too easily. You gave access quickly. You assumed everyone had pure intentions. So God allowed disappointment, not to harden you, but to sharpen you. You learned how to read fruit instead of promises, how to listen beyond words, how to recognize alignment without explanation. Discernment is expensive, and it's learned best when applause is gone. There was a time when prayer was optional, something you fit into busy days. Then life slowed you down, and prayer became survival. You learned how to pray without emotion, how to trust without evidence, how to sit in God's presence without needing answers. Those quiet conversations shaped authority you didn't even realize you were gaining. Public power is born in private surrender. Before, your peace was fragile, dependent on outcomes, affected by opinions. So God removed distractions, not to isolate you, but to anchor you. You learned how to stay calm when things didn't work out, how to remain steady when expectations failed, how to hold your ground without reacting. This emotional stability is not weakness, it's leadership. When everything slowed, obedience became costly. No applause, no guarantee, no visible reward, just faith. You obeyed when it didn't make sense. You stayed when leaving would have been easier. You honored God when no one was watching. That kind of obedience is rare, and heaven never ignores it. There was a season when people's approval mattered deeply. Then God allowed distance. Text stopped. Support faded. Affirmation disappeared. It hurt, but it freed you. You learned how to hear God's voice without consensus, how to move without permission, how to trust divine timing over human reassurance. That independence wasn't rebellion. It was maturity. The success coming next is not noisy. It's sustainable. God was teaching you how to handle influence without losing humility, favor without entitlement, opportunity without compromise. Because the next season will test your character more than your faith. And now, you're ready. They saw delay. God saw development. They saw silence. God saw strength being built. They saw absence. God saw alignment. And now, when the doors open, it will look sudden to them. But to heaven, it will look right on time. It was about preparing you right. So don't explain yourself. Don't defend the wait. Don't announce what's coming. Let the fruit speak. God has been working, even when it looked like nothing was happening. And now, the evidence is about to appear. This is important. God is not about to shock them to embarrass them. He's about to shock them to reveal Himself. Your restoration will expose who underestimated God, who spoke too soon, who judged without discernment. But more than that, it will restore faith in people who stopped believing. Your life will remind them that God is patient, precise, and undefeated. There is a moment in every divine story when waiting gives way to motion. Not gradually, not cautiously, but suddenly. What feels like a long pause often ends in rapid movement. And this is that moment. God does not always send warning signs before He moves. No countdown, no notification, no public explanation. One day will look ordinary, and the next will not. You won't feel ready. You won't feel ahead. You'll just feel called to move. That's how acceleration works in the kingdom. What took years to break will not take years to restore. What required endurance will be replaced with momentum. God is not bound by human timelines. He restores time, not just things. And when He does, it happens faster than logic allows. This part surprises most people. The breakthrough often comes while you're no longer obsessing about it, while you've learned to live without it, while you've made peace with not yet. That's when the door opens. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped clinging. God moves when surrender is complete. When it happens, don't hesitate. The same God who allowed the delay will provide clarity in the moment. You don't need the full plan. You just need the next step. Faith in acceleration looks like obedience without full explanation. Trust your discernment. You didn't survive the wait to panic in the release. Fast doors require steady hearts. Sudden opportunity will try to rush you back into old patterns. People-pleasing, overworking, fear-based decisions. Stay grounded. Acceleration does not cancel wisdom. Move quickly, but not recklessly. They'll say it came out of nowhere. Overnight success. Unexpected favor. Perfect timing. They didn't see the nights you stayed faithful. The prayers you whispered alone. the endurance it took to remain obedient when nothing changed. Let them call it luck. You'll call it grace. God is not rushing you to overwhelm you. He's moving because the preparation is complete. The delay did its work. The foundation is strong. The timing is right. Acceleration is heaven's way of saying, "You're ready." This is wisdom. Some moves are meant to be made quietly. Some doors are meant to be walked through without commentary. Not everyone needs to know what God is doing next. Protect what's unfolding. Silence is sometimes the safest response to sudden favor. Speed can inflate ego if humility isn't anchored. Remember where you came from. Remember who carried you. Remember who opened the door. The same God who moved suddenly still values a steady heart. Chosen one. The waiting season trained your patience. The hidden season sharpened your discernment. The lonely season deepened your faith. Now comes the movement. And it will happen quickly. Not because you forced it, but because heaven released it. Stay ready. Stay obedient. Stay grounded. Because when God decides to move, He doesn't delay twice. Some will celebrate you. Others will go silent. Not because they're evil, but because they remember what they said about you. Let them. You don't need to confront. You don't need to explain. You don't need to remind. God's work will answer every accusation. Chosen one, hear this gently. Don't let the shock change your heart. You didn't survive to become bitter. You didn't wait to become arrogant. You didn't suffer to seek revenge. Stay grounded. The same God who lifts can also withdraw His hand. Walk softly. Speak carefully. Honor God publicly. This is not a repeat of the past. This is not a reset to who you were before everything broke. You are not returning as the same person who left. You are coming back different. And that difference is the proof that God was with you the entire time. Before, you gave your trust quickly. You believed words without watching patterns. You assumed alignment where there was only convenience. Now you pause. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You listen more than you speak. You observe before you commit. You choose peace over potential chaos. This is not coldness. It's clarity. The old version of you needed reassurance, validation, confirmation from others. This version doesn't. You don't need to be announced. You don't need to be applauded. You don't need to explain your worth. You know who you are, even when the room doesn't. That kind of confidence can't be shaken. Before, things got under your skin quickly. Words carried weight they shouldn't have. Opinions shaped your mood. Not anymore. You've learned the power of restraint. You understand that not every comment deserves energy. Not every opinion deserves access. Peace has become your filter. And peace is power. You no longer chase rooms. You wait to be sent. You no longer try to be understood by everyone. You focus on being obedient to God. You're okay with being misunderstood, as long as you're aligned. This shift alone tells heaven you're ready for more. Something else changed. You stopped fantasizing about proving people wrong. You don't need closure. You don't need apologies. You don't need acknowledgement. God healed the wound so deeply that the offense lost its power. You're not bitter. You're free. Before, your faith rose and fell with circumstances. Now, it's anchored. You trust God even when nothing moves. You obey without needing immediate results. You worship without waiting for outcomes. That kind of faith cannot be manipulated. And it cannot be broken. Some will say, "You've changed." They're right. But they won't know how to describe it. They'll feel your calm, your presence, your restraint. Not everyone will be comfortable with the new you. That's okay. Not everyone is meant to walk with the healed version of you. God didn't just restore your opportunity. He restored your foundation. This time, success won't crush you. This time, pressure won't define you. This time, favor won't distract you. Because the old version needed applause. This version needs alignment. Not perfect. Not above struggle. but whole. And wholeness is dangerous to fear, insecurity, and manipulation. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be faster. You don't need to be anything other than obedient. Chosen one. This is the version God waited for. The one who can carry favor without ego, influence without compromise, success without forgetting Him. You are coming back different. And because of that, you're coming back stronger than ever. Let this settle into your spirit. You were never forgotten. You were never replaced. You were never disqualified. God allowed the delay, so the return would be undeniable. What's coming will restore your voice, your confidence, your influence, your peace. And it will happen in a way no one can deny was God. Pause here. Because what you are witnessing in your life right now is not a conclusion. It's not a finish line. It's not even the reward. It is evidence. Evidence that God never let go of you. Evidence that the delay was never abandonment. Evidence that what people called over was never finished in heaven. The chapter they read was incomplete. The silence they misunderstood was sacred. And the version of you they dismissed was only the seed. What's happening now is not about elevation for attention. It's about confirmation. Confirmation that God keeps His word. Confirmation that obedience in obscurity is seen. Confirmation that endurance is never wasted. Your restoration doesn't point to your strength. It points to God's faithfulness. And that is why it carries weight. Let this settle in your spirit. You don't need to defend the wait. You don't need to explain the delay. You don't need to remind anyone of what they said. God's work speaks louder than your explanation ever could. Some will celebrate quietly. Some will stay silent. Some will pretend they always believed. Let them. This is not your job to manage. When the doors open wide, it's easy to drift. So remember the God who walked with you in the quiet. The prayers you whispered alone. The tears no one saw. The faith you held when nothing moved. That intimacy is what sustained you. Don't trade it for momentum. Proximity protects purpose. People are watching you now. Not because you're perfect, but because you survived. Your life is becoming a testimony without a microphone. Someone who is still in the pit will look at you and think, if God did it for them, maybe He hasn't forgotten me. That thought alone makes your story holy. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not fragile. You are aligned. Move forward with humility, with wisdom, with obedience. What God gives you now is not temporary. It is entrusted. This is the proof that God finishes what He starts. The proof that silence does not cancel destiny. The proof that being counted out does not disqualify the chosen. So breathe. You don't have to rush. You don't have to strive. You don't have to look back. The evidence is already speaking. And heaven is not done with you yet. Evidence of grace. Evidence of endurance. Evidence of a faithful God. And this is only the beginning. Chosen one, before you go, I want to speak to the givers, the ones whose hearts feel called to pour back into the vessel that pours into them. If this message awakened you, if it strengthened you, if it spoke to your spirit in a way only heaven could orchestrate, then I invite you, only if your heart feels led, to sow a $1 seed into this channel. Not because God needs it, but because giving is a spiritual law. A small seed carries big obedience. And God multiplies what is given with pure intention. Your $1 keeps this ministry alive, keeps the messages flowing, and helps this word reach the next chosen one who needs it. If you feel that nudge in your spirit, if you feel that gentle pull, you can plant your $1 seed using the link in the description. And if you can't or don't feel led, you are still loved, still seen, and still covered. Blessings to every giver, and blessings to every listener. Your seed moves heaven in ways you may never see. But God sees it all.